Stellar Blade is a sci-fi action-adventure game developed by Korean game developer Shift Up, released exclusively on the PlayStation 5. I went into this game with cautious optimism, and after spending at least 5 hours on it, I can safely say this game has impressed me with its charm, challenge, and curiosity. I will go over my impressions of the first few hours of the game, talking about the gameplay, story, graphics, and audio design. There will be light spoilers in the story section. Before I go into the gameplay though, I would like to mention this is the same developer that made the free-to-play third-person shooter Nikke. There are quite a few similarities between these two games that I will mention later. Starting off with the combat, Stellar Blade features fast-paced action on par with a game like Sekiro. It's not as fast as games like Ninja Gaiden or Devil May Cry, but fans of those games may like Stellar Blade's combat. Its button layout is simple and not too complex. Let me go over the features of combat. Standard offensive options includes the quick attack with square and strong attack with triangle. Mixing a certain sequence of these two attacks will create combos with their own flashy animations. Holding triangle will use rush, which simply dashes you forward to close the gap, and can be followed up with any attack. There is a cooldown noted by the small icon above the beta skills. Speaking of beta skills, they are activated by holding the L1 button and using any of the 4 face buttons. These abilities expend beta energy for powerful moves with their own characteristics. For example, my favorite is Slash, which is activated by L1 plus triangle, which just completely decimates any enemies in front of you. Range attacks are not available for the first area of the game until you unlock the main hub, but it is done with L2. You go into an over-the-shoulder view and it's R2 to shoot. Holding down on the D-pad will allow you to switch out ammo types for certain situations. I mostly just used the default slug ammo for now though. R1 is to use your burst skill, but as of right now I have not unlocked it yet. Speaking of unlocking, a lot of your combat abilities are unlocked through your skill tree using SP. You get SP by defeating enemies to fill up the bar. It's sort of like leveling up. For defensive options, jump is done with X and is used to not only navigate the environment, but to initiate air combos. You have some movement control in the air, which makes platforming easier. Dodging is done with circle. If you time your dodges right, you can perfect dodge, which allows you to negate damage and counter with powerful follow-up attacks. Alternatively, you can guard or parry with L1, where, just like perfect dodging, you can perfect parry at the right moment to negate damage and counter. The timing on both is very tight, but there are some skills you can acquire to make it easier. Some attacks you cannot parry and will need to be dodged, usually indicated by a yellow flash on the enemy. There are variations of these unparryable attacks. If there's a blue flash followed by the same color flash from your sword, you can dodge forward to do a blink. This opens up a window for you to do some massive damage. I like to pop my beta skills during this. Conversely, if there's a pink flash, dodge backwards to do a repulse. This opens up a gap between you and the target to deal increased range damage. Sometimes enemies will expose a weakness for you to shoot. To heal up, you press up on the D-pad, much like some Souls games.
It's first aid.
Holding it will display other healing consumables with their own behavior. The initial 3 potions you get will refill upon resting or dying. But if you die and start a fight over, you'll not get these consumables back. My first impression of the combat felt slow, but fast at the same time, as attacks felt impactful and fast, but your movement feels more careful and slow without sprinting. It took some getting used to, but most action games I play have a much faster movement speed during combat. Perhaps they wanted you to rely more on actively defending than running around. Or perhaps the slower movement speed makes it easier to watch the enemy's attacks. You might get faster pace as the game continues, I'm not sure. Once I got used to it, the combat felt good to play, and I was somewhat able to consistently parry or dodge. Bosses took me a few tries to get used to the rhythm, and are sufficiently challenging. One small nitpick I have are these cheap jump scares. I don't know how you're supposed to react to these in time without holding the guard button down every corner or something. I guess I could look around every corner I find and see if there's an enemy there, but I don't want to interrupt the pacing of the game. Oh, it just occurred to me while editing this video, you can actually scan through walls with the touchpad, so maybe I can use that to discover these jump scares. So I guess that nitpick is solved. An even smaller nitpick is a QT immediately appearing after killing a boss. This has caught me off guard at least twice, and I was lucky to be holding the controller in my left hand. I feel like most people will be relieved to finally kill a boss, and then they put down their controller, only to be surprised with QTE. I haven't figured out what happens if you fail, but I don't want to retry a boss to find out. Overall, combat is great, and I'm looking forward to playing the hard mode when I unlock New Game Plus. If you're not good at action games, then the game offers a story mode with action assists turned on. This adds a quick time event right before the enemy hits you, allowing you to perfect parry or dodge with ease. Sometimes they'll even do a blink or a repulse for you. I've noticed that it doesn't do it all the time, so you might still want to manually do it. This feature actually reminds me of Final Fantasy XVI's Action Assist, where it tells you to dodge if you have it turned on. I like having these options, as I want as many people as possible playing this game. If difficulty is not the core feature of the game, then there should be options for players who are more focused on the story to play the game. Enemies will also do less damage in the story mode, and Guardian will completely negate the damage. As you go through the level, you gradually get introduced to new enemies and their entry gets logged after you defeat them. Each one has unique behaviors. Guardians are your slow but heavy hitters. Dozers with their hammerheads will charge at you. Hydras can go invisible, and you have to scan with the touchpad to reveal them. The lore about them is also neat to read, which can give you clues about what they are. Boss fights are intense and can be unforgiving, but parrying an entire boss's combo can be extremely satisfying. You get the same sense of accomplishment you get from defeating a boss in a Souls game. Stellar Blade isn't all about combat, however. It's still an adventure game, and it will throw small puzzles and minigames at you occasionally. With the keypads, it's either a memory game of Greek letters, or a sequence of directions under a time limit, like stratagems from Helldivers. There's also some platforming, but I haven't found any that are particularly challenging to figure out, especially with yellow paint. Sometimes you'll get water puzzles, like pushing a plank to reach a ladder. There are also challenge moments where you're restricted to just using your gun, or you're confined to a shrinking arena. On occasion, you'll also find one-off minigames where you distribute power between bars, or step on a particular sequence of PlayStation symbol platforms. So far, the level design consists of linear paths with side rooms to discover any story clues or items. Occasionally, you'll come across camps where you can rest to recover health and potions, purchase consumable items, and use SP to get new skills. Sometimes when you rest at a camp for the first time, you'll get a cutscene giving you some more details about the story. Something to keep in mind, a lot of the game opens up once you reach the main hub, which can be at least 3 hours into the game. You get a map, you get cross-region travel, side quests, range attacks, and if you spent the extra $10 on top of the $70 price tag, you get the Digital Deluxe items, which I'll go over briefly what these items are. For Eve, you get the Stargazer suit, Aphram glasses, and quadruple rectangle earrings. For your two companions though, you get a Stargazer suit for both of them. The drone that follows Eve around gets a Stargazer outfit too. Then you get 2000 EXP, which is good for 5 SP. And then you get 5000 gold, which lets you purchase a handful of potions and other items. For reference, a lingering potion is about 300 gold. By the way, before I go over the story, I would like to point out that these cute cans are actually NFTs in the game's lore. Yes, that's right. In this world, cryptocurrency won, and so did NFTs. Oh well. At least you get a neat outfit by collecting all of these cans. Now I'm gonna go over the story. Earth is taken over by a mysterious threat known as the Natibas. Mankind was nearly eliminated from these creatures and was forced to flee to the colony, which is probably on or near the moon. You play as Eve, an angel from the 7th Airborne Squad from the colony. Angels are combat androids sent by the entity safeguarding the remnants of humanity called Mother Sphere. The Mother Sphere has a plan called the Eve Protocol, which is to exterminate the Natibas and take back Earth. Some humans worship Mother Sphere as a deity. However, some question his authority in an attempt to protect humanity.
I heard the Prophet gave you permission to enter the city, but that doesn't mean you can go around as you please.
Besides angels and Natibas, you also encounter humans on your journey. Some of them are your companions.
Oh, I feel better now that we're outside.
Things can get pretty intense in the presence chamber.
You meet more humans in the hub later on.
You can just take this. I heard you've come to help us. Of course, I'll do what I can to help you as well.
While the cutscenes tell you a decent amount of the setting, much of the game's exposition is discovered through the context and notes left behind by the deceased. Beyond the very first area of the game, you spend most of it exploring and figuring out what is happening or what has happened to humanity.
This city, it's so quiet and so lonesome.
Well, that's what happens when a city becomes devoid of humanity.
Any exposition is done through occasional cutscenes or while resting at campsites.
Not really sure.
I prefer it this way, as anyone playing the game for its gameplay can get a good amount of it, while anyone interested in the story can piece it together through notes you discover. I had lots of questions going through the first hour of the game. Like, what are the Natibas? What are angels? How did the humans handle this apocalyptic future? Why do Natibas look so angelic when angels are supposed to be saviors of humanity? Poking through the notes will give you an idea that maybe you should be cautious of Mother Sphere and its affiliates. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned before that Stellar Blade has similarities to Nikke, Shift Up's prior game. One of those similarities is the story premise. In Nikke, humans have been attacked by Raptures, which are these machine robot entities, and they fled underground to the Ark for safety, where they create Nikkes, android soldiers, to combat these Raptures. In Stellar Blade, instead of Raptures, they're attacked by Natibas. Instead of fleeing underground to the Ark, they flee into space to the colony. Instead of Nikkes, they send angels. You could mention Stellar Blade's premise is also extremely similar to Nier Automata, a 2017 game by Platinum Games, where androids are also sent to the Earth from the moon to take it back from the machines.
Damn.
I'll make more comparisons later in the music. Now, I'm not criticizing Shift Up for how similar its premise is to Nikke or Nier, I'm just making comparisons. In fact, I love this premise so much that I've always wanted another game with a setting just like Nier Automata. Going into the graphics, they are quite stellar, unintended. Running on Unreal Engine 4, Stellar Blade maintains a constant 60 FPS on 2 of the 3 graphics modes. There's Performance, Balance, and Graphics. Performance keeps the game at a steady 1440p 60 FPS. Balance raises the resolution through upscaling, keeping 60 most of the time, dipping down rarely to 40. This is the mode I play on and have not noticed any performance hitching at all. Graphics drops it down to 30 FPS at 4K. For an action game like Stellar Blade, I do not recommend graphics mode at all since it runs at 30 FPS unless the lower resolution bothers you. Like its name suggests, Balance is a good middle ground. I would watch Digital Foundry's video on this if you want further technical details, as they're more qualified than me. I'll put a link in the description below. Maybe subscribe as well if you haven't already, since you're passing by that button anyways. The design of the Natibas look gruesome and unique with the game's lighting interacting with its materials. The blood flying when you eviscerate them is satisfying, and their bodily fluids is depicted well enough to gross you out. The city of 807 is under constant rain and is populated by many statues, which gives it a nice melancholic atmosphere. I'm not sure why this city is obsessed with statues, but I sorta like it. For the character designs, Eve's nanosuits are eye-catchingly beautiful to stare at. And like you saw before, there's a lot of neat accessories you can put on her. And you can change her hair too, but unfortunately, the ponytail will stay on whatever haircut you have, so it won't look that great for short haircuts. Oh, and a really neat feature that the game lets you do is change the length of Eve's ponytail. You can make it short, or you can make it long. I like to keep it short so that way the hair doesn't get in the way or distract me, and it looks better that way. But the long hair will interact with her body and it looks really nice. It's pretty neat that the developers thought of this. Other characters have very interesting designs that makes me excited to see what else they put in the game. I can only nitpick when it comes to the graphics. Like, check out how high this giant blood splatter is on the wall. How did it get there? Or better yet, this comically large security camera. Big Brother can't get any bigger than this. I've noticed at times that there are some low resolution textures, but these are typically out of the way and never really stick out. I can assume they did this to keep the memory usage low to keep the game running at 60 FPS. A funny moment is this particular scene where there are 3 Guardian statues, but you can just barely notice that one's ambient occlusion is darker than the others. In other words, its shadows looks different. Can you guess which one's real? Whoops. All that doesn't really distract me from the beautiful art and graphics this game presents to you. I have yet to see some of the stuff I've seen in promotional material, and I can't wait to see what else is there. If you've been listening to the video and not me, you've probably noticed how rich the soundtrack is. I'll give you a break from hearing my voice and just show you a few snippets of music. From calm, beautiful music to dramatic, intense electronic music, this game has a wide range of tracks that has left me wanting more. I mentioned Nier Automata before and how its story premise is similar, but another similarity is the soundtrack. While Nier doesn't really have any electronic tracks, its orchestral and acoustic tracks are fairly reminiscent of it. I really love it when games have a calm version that fades into a more upbeat combat mix and fades back, which both games do. When you're taking a break at camp, a neat feature is changing the camp's music with a limited selection of relaxing tunes. I haven't really shown off what the combat sounds like, as I've always talked over it, so I'll show it to you here. As you can tell, it sounds very satisfying and makes me want to fight more things to hear it again. Stellar Blade was a game I didn't really follow until the demo dropped about a month ago, and it really surprised me with how great it felt to play. The lore drew me in and piqued my curiosity. Shift Up did an amazing job with their first PS5 title so far, and I cannot wait to finish playing it. I'm also playing through Nikke for the first time and enjoying its story and characters. I haven't gotten a good grasp of the combat yet though. This is my first video that I've made with hours of effort, recording the footage, editing it, and writing the script, and redoing the voiceovers over and over again. I really hope you liked it, even just a little bit. If you didn't like this video, that's okay, I'm still learning. Please look forward to more videos like this, and also my review of Stellar Blade when I finally finish it. This is Window, I'm really hungry, so I'm signing off to get something to eat. I'll see you later.